All right, we're going to pick up onto this next page here. We're still working with our constructions, so you should all be on this page today. We only have one construction that we need to get through today. This one's a little bit more, I would say, in depth. Like there's just more steps and things that you have to do in order to complete this construction. So we're just going to focus on this today. But if you just look at this page right now, it says that we're going to construct a line parallel to AB that passes through point C. Before we even get into this construction, what does this word parallel mean? So when it says construct a line parallel to AB through this point C, what does that mean, parallel? Okay, so you guys have heard parallel before when talking about like graphing lines, right? All right, so let's go back really quick. We're going to add a term to our vocab sheet. Okay, so we're on this page here, and we're going to add the word parallel to our vocab sheet. Specifically, we're going to call them parallel lines. We're going to talk about parallel lines here for this. All right, so in that next word box, we're going to write parallel lines. All right, and you guys were kind of telling me that when you have seen parallel lines in the past, they're lines that never touch each other, right? So the definition of parallel lines would be two lines in the same plane. Remember, that just means like they're in the same space, or you could even think about they're on the same graph, that never intersect. Okay, I'm going to draw an example here of parallel lines. Okay, so I want you guys to copy that down there, and we're going to kind of talk about what this is showing you here. All right, so these two lines are parallel because they're going in the same direction. If we were back in like algebra, we would be maybe talking about their slopes, and we would say that parallel lines have the same slope, which is why they would never cross, because same slope means that the graphs would be acting the same way, like they would be going in the same direction forever and ever and ever. So they would never intersect each other. Now on here, I drew some extra stuff. So like I put on some points, that way we could maybe name these lines, but then I drew those little like red arrow-like things in the middle of the lines too. We are going to see those kind of show up on parallel lines sometimes. When you see those little arrow markings, they're just trying to symbolize to you in a picture that those lines are parallel to each other. Okay, so it doesn't have to have just one arrow marking. It could have two, it could have three little like marks on it. And sometimes if there's a picture where there's like a lot of parallel lines present, you might see multiple variations of those kinds of marks on there. Okay, now for the parallel lines, we do have like a symbolic way that we can write that. So over here in the notation box, I could say that top line we could call AB. So I'm going to write line AB using the notation that we learned the other day. And then the other line would be CD, okay, and I'm going to give that the same notation as well. And then the symbol for parallel are these two double bars that are kind of like side by side. Okay, so I'm just going to write underneath it that this little symbol here means parallel. And you might see that sometimes in word problems or in the directions of something where it's talking about the lines that are parallel to each other. And so if we see those up and down lines like that, that's what they're talking about, is they're trying to tell you that those lines would be parallel to one another. Okay. All right, so now that we kind of know what parallel means, and we've done a little bit of that vocab work, we're now going to get into our construction. Okay, so I'm going to kind of switch back over here. Remember I said you should be on this page. Okay, So I'm going to switch my screen over so we can look at this together. All right, so we are on this page here, and I'm going to walk you guys through how you are going to create a parallel line that goes through a specific point. So not only do I want to create a line that's parallel to AB, but I also want to make sure that it goes through that point C. So I can't just draw a parallel line wherever I want. I have to make sure that I'm also going to put it through that point C that they're giving me. Okay, we're going to kind of use a little bit of the construction that we did yesterday with the angles to help us do this. All right, but the first thing I need to do is actually create an angle. And so step one, I'm going to write steps down here again. Step one is that I'm going to connect A and C using a straight edge. Okay, so using my paint stick here, I'm just going to connect A and C. And when you connect it, I want you to go beyond C. Don't just stop at C, but have it go A to C, and then let's have it just come up even farther. So I'm just going to make that line nice and long. So go ahead and do that. That's step one. All right, now we're going to kind of go into that construction that we did yesterday. Remember when we were copying an angle that we measured one of the sides of the angle? Okay, we're going to do that again today. So I'm going to measure A to C, and I'm going to draw an arc. So I'm actually going to draw two. So I'm going to draw arcs from A and C. Okay, so I'm going to grab my compass now. Using my compass, I'm going to measure A to C here. So dot to dot. Okay, so I've got it like about there. And I'm going to draw two arcs. We're going to do one right here where we have a position. So I'm just going to take my paper and I'm going to move it. Okay, so there's the first arc, just kind of going through and kind of creating that angle that we saw yesterday. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to move my pointer up here to C. And I'm going to draw another arc that looks just like it. Okay, like so. Now again, don't make your arcs teeny tiny. You want them to be big enough that you can see them and actually use them for something. Okay, so all I did there again is I measured A to C and I drew an arc from A. So I kept my pointer at A and I drew an arc through the picture. I moved it up to C and I drew another arc through the picture as well. All right, our next step. We're going to measure the distance from where my first arc hits that line AB. So I'm just going to say hits AB to C, which should be really similar to this measurement that we have here. But I'm going to put my pointer down here where this arc that I drew intersects, okay? And I'm going to connect it up to C. So I'm just checking to make sure that that measurement looks the same, which it does. So I don't really have to change my compass too much here, okay? So I'm just checking and verifying that that's the same there, okay? So we did that. And then what we're going to do is up here, this point that we kind of created when we drew that line out, we're going to use this point in my next step. I'm going to go ahead and name it really quick. So it's going to put a dot here and I'm just going to call it D. Okay. The only reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to refer to that point here in a second. So it's going to be easier for me to say, go to point D than to say, go to that point that's sitting above A and C. Okay. That's a little bit more wordy. Remember when we add labels to things, it kind of simplifies our process. So for step 4, I'm going to move to point D and I'm going to draw another little mark. So I'm going to say arc, you could call it a mark. We don't need to maybe make this one as big, but we're going to take this measurement that we just had. So again, I'm from here to C. Okay, that was what we did in step 3. I'm going to move my pointer up to D here. Okay, I'm going to flip my compass around. So I want my pencil facing over here and I want to make a little mark. So kind of make like a little tiny X there. Okay, I'm going to repeat what I just did. I've got my measurement from step 3. That's from that intersection to C. I'm going to put my pointer up here at D. I'm going to flip my pencil around, and I'm going to make a mark here. Okay, so I just made a mark right there, kind of making like a little X. Okay, we got one last step to do, and that is to connect or draw a line from C to that intersection that we just created. So using your straight edge, we're just going to connect C to that little X that we created there. And we're going to draw our line. It should look like it's parallel to this one. Mine's maybe off a little bit. Like I said, some of that could just be user error, like maybe I tapped my compass a little bit and I caused it to shift. It should be pretty close though. I'm not going to be super picky if it's not like perfectly parallel. Like if you did something like this, or if yours maybe looks like it's maybe a little bit off, I'm probably still going to give you credit for that. Okay. Now, if it's way, way, way off, like if you have a line that's like going like this and it's clearly going to intersect that bottom one, then we've got more issues. Okay. And we'd want to go back and try to fix that. Okay, so kind of think about this one as you basically were using that copying an angle procedure that we did yesterday and just kind of extending on it a little bit in order to create that parallel line. Okay, all right, does anyone have questions on how we did that one? All right, so that is all we have for our constructions today. So now what you're going to do is get a homework assignment and you can practice doing this type of construction in addition to the ones that you also learned yesterday.